One. I'm so sorry. My first live got cut off due to bad connection. I'm not sure if it was on my guest end or mine, but I wanted to come back on and try again. Um, Welcome back. This is my second live for today, and we are having a very wonderful guest. Her name is Katarina Reach. She is an ambassador of Adopted.org, and she's a really super sweet girl, and I cannot wait for her to come back on and join me. So Katarina, if you're here, request to join and we will get started again. I'm so sorry to everyone who was on before. I hope you all come back. So I'll just wait for Katarina to come on and we'll get started. Okay. Hi Jim, welcome back. So sorry about that. We are just waiting for Katarina to come back. Okay, Katarina's back, and I will bring her on. Going live any second now. Hi.
Hey, so
Welcome.
sorry, I don't know what happened.
I think it's on. Okay, I think it was on my end.
Okay.
I'm so sorry about that. Never usually have bad reception, so that's a first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
No
I think
worries.
I had to switch from my iPad to my to the phone.
Oh, okay.
Off Wi-Fi.
I was like, oh no, is it my end again? I mean,
I think it was on me.
weird.
Sorry.
Okay, no
Okay.
worries. It happens.
Okay, so Jim is back, and now we are waiting for Bethany to join. Hi, Bethany.
Hi.
She was my special guest earlier.
Yes, I can't wait to rewatch it and
Yeah,
hear from her.
really great, such a great story. I love listening to her.
Yeah, I saw Alex Gilbert joined at one point.
He joined right before I ended.
Oh, oops. That's okay. We're getting more people back on. I'm sure this isn't the first time it's happened in the world.
It's so weird because usually, like I said, usually I have good reception, so I don't really know what happened. So, and I knew it was my end because I kept seeing the circle going around. I was like, no. So that's why I look a little smaller right now.
Oh, you're good. I feel like I look really big. I need to like lean back.
No.
Yeah. Oh well, that's okay.
Another minute for a couple people to come back on.
Okay. I forgot you were saying something. You were saying you got water because
Oh,
are you feeling fine now though?
I'm feeling good. I ended up having 2 glasses of rum and Diet Coke at dinner. And then, I'm not I am a lightweight, but it wasn't that too wouldn't put me on the edge, but I was feeling a little buzzed. And I was not a good idea. You're going live tonight. So I'm okay, but I also grabbed some water, so I'm okay.
That's good. I know me, even just any little bit, I know my limit because any little bit will make me just drowsy. I won't make any sense.
Yeah.
I could only do like 1 glass of anything or else I'm out of it. So props to you.
Wait, I've gotten better, but yeah, they definitely, I think they were a little strong.
Mm-hmm.
Jim said, okay, I'm confused with all the new adoptees I'm meeting in all these awesome adoptee groups. I know there's a lot of us, Jim. I keep meeting new adoptees every day, and it's really exciting though because I love when they come on for my live, and I love when I get to engage with them. So I just love meeting new adoptees out there.
Me too. I like watching,
Yeah,
hearing stories and engaging as well.
exactly.
Yeah.
I love hearing everyone's stories, and just it's very fascinating. what like different people had to go through. Like I was telling Bethany before earlier, is the one thing we have in common is we're adopted. But everything else, everyone has a different story, and sometimes our trauma can be different. And um, I just like hearing everybody. Yes, it's been an amazing 2 years of meeting adoptees. Yes.
2 years.
Yeah, wow. I've only been on since July and I've met a lot. So I can't even imagine how many I'm going to meet in 2 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sky
Well,
is the limit. Lots of people. Sometimes it starts to feel like a small world.
yeah, it does. I hope Alex and Katie come back on. They
I
weren't,
know.
but I guess we can start.
We are all in the same boat.
Boat. Yes, we are, Bethany. Okay, I guess we'll start. Bethany, sorry, I'm looking at Bethany.
You're
Katarina,
good.
why don't you share a little bit about, your story, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Okay, I'll just start a little. I know the title was Birth Family Reunion, but I'll just give again some background of myself. I was born in eastern Ukraine in the Donetsk region, former Soviet Union area, and I was born 2 months premature, left in a hospital, given up at birth, and was in the hospital 9 months before going to an orphanage. And then I was in an orphanage until I was adopted at 4 years old, and that left me I weighed only 19 pounds because I just due to I guess malnourishment and neglect. I was born at only 3 pounds, and I'm surprised I even have that information about myself, but I do have that. And so being 2 months premature and all that, I knew that information. And I was born with some physical problems I was born tongue tied and with a lazy eye. And in Ukraine, at least then, I don't know how much now, but in Ukraine, they really shun anyone born with any physical deformities. They're shunned and neglected and hidden from society. And I know now, and that's not why I was given up. There's much more reasons behind that, but that did determine where I ended up. And so I ended up in an orphanage where there's a lot of kids with missing limbs, really extreme situations and conditions, and that's actually a lot of the orphans in Ukraine. I know, just alcoholism and all that stuff is huge there, a huge problem there, and so it really lowered my chances of being adopted. I don't have many memories of being in the orphanage. Nothing vivid that I know of, but I do. If it weren't for my parents telling me of this story, I probably wouldn't have remembered. But my first memories, I believe, were in the first few times I got to spend with the people who became my parents, and so the background on that is so my parents couldn't have children of their own, and before even finding that out, they were open to adoption. They wanted children of their own and children to adopt. They felt that that was what it was something a desire for them and something they felt that they could do and were prepared to do. And so when they couldn't have kids of their own, they were led to Ukraine and to adopt there. And by the time it was a long process, but by the time they got to my orphanage, they had picked other kids besides me. And in Ukraine, children normally wear tights and a t-shirt, and but then you get dressed up when you're being seen by prospective parents, adoptive parents, and so I guess and my parents were told this later on by one of the workers there. I barely remember this, but I do. I was in the back room and I saw these other kids getting dressed to see this couple who would eventually become my parents, and I had no idea what was really happening. And I will tell you first too, and I had clarified this with my parents. They had said that before even traveling to adopt, they were praying and had asked God that God would show their child or children who their parents were. And so that's what they had prayed, and that He would show them and lead them to their child or children. And so, all leading up to that moment, I had told the orphanage worker in Russian, "My mom and dad are coming for me. Get me dressed up." And so that was an unusual circumstance or situation. And my parents, after seeing those two kids, they did not feel a peace about it.
Mhm.
And so they, in the meantime, the translator had asked the worker, what more can we do? It was against the law to see more children than what they chosen from the directory. And so that same worker was the one who I spoke with. And so she thought back to that moment and said, hold on, we have one more child for you to see. They dressed me up. And I know it seems like a fantasized story, but it really is what happened. They dressed me up in a pink dress and a white bow, and barely could walk in it. And I came out, and my parents just explained it as when they saw me, they knew I was their daughter immediately. They had a piece about it. They were willing to adopt any other siblings I had. I was a social orphan. I had no other siblings in the orphanage with me. No relatives ever visited me. And so, and this is just all that they knew, that I was their child, and that was it at the time. And so they went through the process. They had to go through an extra long process, and instead of it taking 30 days, it only took 3 weeks, because the orphanage worker had said I needed medical attention, and she also shared with them after they had adopted me what I had said, and it just reaffirmed just what God's leading in the situation, and it was like as if God put it on my heart to say that, and just how everything came about, the details is just incredible and kind of undeniable. But so ever since being adopted, I knew, even though I didn't have much memory, I knew I was adopted. My parents told it to me, never kept it from me. And the transition I remember was very traumatic. Coming into the States with strangers, I had a lot of fears I had to overcome. I had we had language barriers. I had to learn English, and I was getting nourished and nutrition. And so, but I did have some learning delays that stuck with me. But also something I got over a lot of fears and self-soothing habits I had. But the one thing I did not let go of was my fear of abandonment. And that was really unconscious in my mind, though, throughout the years. I never really connected anything to, oh, it's because I'm adopted. Even, my parents, I just never really put blame on it. Now, I was very loved. They made me feel loved and accepted. I was adopted as an only child. But the times when I did remember I was adopted and feel like something, hi Kaylee and Anna, and I see more people joining in. So the times when I felt something was different was when I saw other families, large families together, often during the holidays or other things, reunions, and hi Alex. When I saw them together, these families who looked alike, I felt that was when, hi Adoptee Rising. That was when that was when I started to realize there was something missing, and I just felt different, even though I was loved and accepted, and I loved my family. And so that was when I started to ask more questions. And into my teen years, I struggled with self-doubt. I fell into a functional depression, struggled in maintaining friendships, and it wasn't until my parents had opportunity and took the opportunity to take kids in from the foster care system into their home and care for them, and that was a big adjustment for me. But I really grew from that, and we took one child we ended up having for 7 months. We got her at 3 months old. I ended up adoring her and cherishing her just as our own, and it came to a point when my family, I know this is a lot, I'm trying to cram into one little bit, but anyway, because there's so much more to it, this story. But anyway, so my family, we decided, okay, if the time came, we would adopt her. And I was also not only changed by that, but I was changed by this organization, everyone that was involved in this situation. She also had an older brother who died of leukemia. And so that was just, it was something where a community came together and just really comforted one another, looked after, and her parents weren't getting any better at the time. But then just unexpectedly, after we celebrated her first birthday, she was gone and taken back to her home. And so given the situation, it was really devastating. I fell into a really dark moment, and I could not help but think the loss I felt. I couldn't help but think back to, is this how my birth mother must have felt, giving me up? And so, what did Alex say? I'm in meetings throughout the day myself, but I will be watching this back when it's finished. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Alex.
We'll be after, so whoever joined late or couldn't join will be able to watch it.
Yes, you can rewatch the whole thing then.
Go ahead, Katarina.
Yeah. So it was just a hard time for me to process. I couldn't help but think, is that what my birth mother felt like when she gave me up? And that brought a lot more questions for me. I wanted to find them. I had asked my parents. They said, wait till you're 18. I went in a dark phase, and then I was brought into counseling, and it really helped me a lot. I knew I needed help, and that's just a whole nother conversation in itself. But in short, that really helped me, and I started to even claim my own faith as my own, and I held on to faith in Christ, and who it was a point where I had to become secure and confident in myself, and then to a point where I call it a redemption story unfolding, because I had to encounter my brokenness, a point of brokenness to be complete and find wholeness. And of course, it's a process. Not everything's perfect. Nothing ever is just like sunshine and rainbows. It's just in the midst of, just in spite of, I found a hope and peace, and I find purpose, and just in all that. So now up to the point where I'm trying to think. So finding my birth family. For those of you who don't know, I'm in about 1 year of reuniting with my birth family, and I was really inspired by Alex Gilbert, the founder of I'm Adopted. I was inspired by his story of reuniting with his birth parents, and I knew I was never connected with an adoptee community, though. I never even connected with I'm Adopted much, even until just recently. I never grew up around people who were adopted mostly, so I was just very unfamiliar. I didn't know what I was feeling. You too?
Right.
Yeah. And so I was just inspired by the search and how that came about. So I turned 18, and that was when I was allowed to search, but it wasn't until I was 21 when that happened, just with things happening in life. And so the search took only 3 weeks. And it was just very unexpected. We thought, with the war happening in Eastern Ukraine going on ever since 2014, we thought that they either would have been dead, displaced. Of course, I didn't know how to feel going into it. I was kind of out of a self-defense mechanism, expecting the worst.
Right.
And I will say I'm glad, I'm thankful I did not encounter all of this until the age I did. It wasn't the age, but it was the experiences that led me to a point where I actually was ready. And so by that time, I was ready to hear the hard news that I received. It was just a lot to overcome and to just hear and take in. And I found out, we found my birth mother, maternal grandmother, birth father. I have a half brother on my birth mom's side, and extended family and stuff. And it's just a lot. But I found out my birth mother, Natalia, and I say her name because we've built a strong relationship. The others, I won't say their names on here, but I found out that she had lived a normal life post-Soviet era. Until the age of 15, she got heavily involved with drug dealers and engaged in injecting drugs heavily, and just relying so much, partying and getting dependent on alcohol use, and just joined groups 2 years ago. I hit 57. Okay, anyway, very cool. Trying to see the comments too, but so she got really engaged in that, and so she ended up marrying. Okay, well, how do I go fast with this, trying to shorten this. So she married a man who she ended up getting pregnant with my half brother. She was sober for his pregnancy and then just kind of fell back into a dark pit after giving birth to him. And so my grandmother raised my half brother basically all his life while also raising my birth mother. She fell into a habit of just disappearing a lot, lying and stealing from the home. And this was all really hard to, believe for me. When I read the report I got back from this private investigator when she interviewed my grandmother and Natalia. And so I kept thinking, how is she still alive? Is she really still alive? And so continuing reading, I found then she was in a 4-year relationship with my birth father. Given the complicated situation, it makes sense that my birth father did not believe I was his daughter, and therefore it also took him several months to actually reach out to me after finding them. And I had to come to peace with that too. I wondered why. And there's still a lot of, I found out that as I got all these answers, it also resulted in a lot of more unanswered questions. And that seems to be what happens. And I had to come to a place of, okay, is the answers more important or the relationship? And at that time, I felt like, I really wanted to pursue a relationship. And I say that sounds romantic, but not in that way, just a connection with them, build that. And so, and continuing with what happened, she tried for an abortion. In the midst of that, she really numbed herself to the pain and used through all those ways, drugs and alcohol. And she was at the hospital ready for the procedure, and then she felt a distress. And thankfully to that distress, she stole the money back, escaped out of the back window of a hospital, used that money, what was meant for something bad. She used it for drugs and alcohol to buy more. In the process, she got arrested. And time and time again, she's been severely beaten by the police and trying to bring her friends out in and out of jail and stuff. But this time she was beaten severely down some stairs and became paralyzed from the legs down. And this was an early pregnancy with me. And so then she got treatment for that. Thankfully, she's no longer paralyzed, but she forgot she was pregnant with me nearly, so she has no recollection of it. And then nearly giving birth to me, she nearly died of kidney failure and a weak heart. She didn't see me after birth. She could no longer afford an abortion or to keep me, so she gave me up, and she didn't see me then. Then several months after her giving birth to me, she was diagnosed with HIV. And due to her continuing dependency on drugs and alcohol and just the heaviness, all kinds of drugs, she said, and she lost all of her hair, a lot of her teeth, her eyebrows and eyelashes, so she wears a wig and wears makeup, or she wears a bandana, and there's a special thing we hold together, wearing a bandana. She's moved past the point of feeling shame and embarrassment in that, and she's just open about it. She even uses it as her own testimony to other people in broken situations where she was to this day. And so it's really inspiration to me. Anytime I see bandanas, it reminds me of her, and it's just a way of using the broken pieces for just redemption and helping others. And so, and it's okay, what am I trying to say? Hold on. So from that, trying to think, she's been diagnosed with other things too: hepatitis C, cirrhosis, chronic bronchitis, psoriasis, all these things. Doctors said it's dependent on her, whether how long she lives, and she was in and out of rehabilitation centers all over Ukraine. She finally ended up in a Christian rehabilitation center, didn't know anything of what that was about. And it's definitely still different. And so she, though, was loved and accepted in a community, cared for in a way she never had been. And she was there for several years. It really changed her life, at least her perspective and her heart. And it was just a moment of transformation. But then when the war hit, all of those churches and Christian centers were banned, the rehabilitation centers. So she lost all of her community, fell into another dark hole again. And I can understand, I can imagine from her perspective, just losing all of that accountability, no matter how full in recovery you are, in living in those circumstances. I just can't imagine. And so, I'm trying to think. So, up to this point in reunion with me, she has been in this state, and so she never moved on. Just her guilt just continued to feed itself. And something that of many things I'm learning is that for as long as we view either ourselves or others as a shameful object that that's worthless, it will continue a terrible cycle that will damage and destroy us. And so that's when, and it's taken me a while to even come to that, because I just didn't know what to do with this information. I wanted contact with them, didn't know what to say. When I first got in contact with them, it was just, I kind of lost all boundaries. I would message through translation. We'd have to get used to that. It took me a while to even be comfortable to Skype with them. We would message day and night hours, and I would be up due to the time difference. And so it was overwhelming. I even overwhelmed my parents with it, and they supported me in it, but it was hard for them. They were still processing. And so I had to learn also to consider their feelings in the situation, because it was just as much for them to process as it was for me. And I process out loud. They really don't. And so we have to learn to work through that. So for them, in discussing, like we've been transparent with each other through the years, and so, but it is different and feels weird sometimes talking about it with them. But they also, like, we've developed a way of discussing it and talking about it where it's like it's more healing and not damaging.
Right.
And they're processing and accepting more, and it helps that my birth family honors them and respects them. They've been able to Skype with them, to at least my birth mother, and my half brother has. And so, but I will say, all of you, to everyone, that it was a lot to take in at first, and it's been up and downs. Like, anytime we invite someone into our lives, it is going to be messy and complicated, no smooth ride. It's been a roller coaster of emotions, and when you take your own emotions and then add another's, and then sometimes I felt like I was in the midst of wanting to please both sides and realizing, oh, I can't please everybody, and am I being drained too by this? And so I also, with Natalia, being still in recovery from, drug and alcohol addiction, there's been times of like relapse, and times when she would disappear, when facts or when what she would say would not align with facts. And there was this point of like broken trust, but I had to remind myself, like, even no matter how good our intentions are, like, we still fall, and I'm no better. I'm just as broken of a person and human being. And kind of like you share with your story, like you're beginning to see them as a person, like your birth mother, and it's really makes it
for her.
Hmm?
Yeah, so I'm beginning to show empathy for her and viewing
Empathy. Yeah, and I know for you,
a birth mother.
Yeah, seeing her beyond that, and for you, I know it's taken you years. This is me just like 1 year of it, and I know that more will come up and down the line. I know it's gonna happen, but it's come to a point of just like, even in the midst, it may feel like an unending cycle sometimes. I've noticed that the periods of the hard periods, they've become a little less frequent or less long. And I just, even in the midst when it felt like it was unending, looking back, I've seen more of a transparency between us, and just that our relationship has grown deeper. And we were going to meet together. We've in Russia, because right now we've been Skyping and messaging online, but we've never met in person. And so, but due to the pandemic and other reasons, we weren't able to do it this summer. And I was really disappointed at first. I thought, man, is it going to be too late? Am I ever going to meet them? And then I had to remember, looking back now, almost to summer again, and still with uncertainty with this pandemic, it's still like when we do get to meet, it'll be even sweeter because we have developed a stronger relationship. And who knows, anything can happen. And I just have to remember to hold on to a hope. Because as soon as either one of us start to just depend on each other, I had to develop, I recognized at one point a codependency that I had with her, an unhealthy. And
Right.
that's when I had to develop boundaries. And I did see a counselor again for a little bit, and it really helped me. It really wasn't, it was a different kind of different counselor. And at different points in her life, you need different things. And she was very much more so not empathetic, but like asking me the hard questions. Why would you think that? And I was just ready. Like, I need help. Get me through this. Like, how do I counter this? Give me the hard truth. And and it challenged me. And so it's a lot, but here we are now. And yeah.
Wow. That was a beautiful story. You said a lot.
I know. Yeah. I don't even
But
remember what I said.
you just kept going. So, no, it was good. Amazing. That's why I didn't want to interrupt you because I know I saw some comments come up, but I didn't want to interrupt you, so I am going to go back and just see
Okay. Yeah.
people, what everyone has said. So we read that. So Jim just joined groups 2 years ago. I had 57 years of no conversations with other adoptees. Wow, that's a long time. Wow. I had about maybe 32 years, so I guess that's
Mm.
Bethany from Journey of my Trisol. Same with my birth mother's report, disappearing from the family home a lot.
Oh, wow.
Um, definitely is a roller coaster for sure. Roller coaster for 20 years since I found my birth mother. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's crazy to see that. I'll be able and those of us in reuniting, it changes each year. It seems like, there's a honeymoon phase, and
Mm-hmm.
it starts to be, different. I know I'm talking less and less with. I have talked less with them. I think it's more of a balance. It's actually more of a positive thing. I'm finding balance in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Natalia, also, she's busier, but I'm glad she's developing a community of her own there now. And I don't even know how it's happened. I know it's not just me, but there's been, I feel like, I believe God's in it, and she's never been able to hold a job of her own, and now she's has a job, and so she's busy with that, and it brings it to all new intricacies.
That's awesome for her. I'm so happy for her. That's great. Hi, Kevin. Welcome. Honeymoon phase. Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. No
Unfortunately,
codependency.
reunion, so I don't really know what that's like yet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I did and I didn't. I'm sure you know a little bit of my story, but I'll share one.
Mm-hmm.
I was searching. Oh, I'm sorry, I just said that word completely wrong. Searching for my birth family in 2011. I found my birth mother. I found I had a half brother, half sister. My birth mother was married, and that was their father. Um, but at the time, my birth mother didn't really seem too interested in wanting to have a relationship with me. So I ended up writing letters back and forth to her father, my grandfather, for
Mm-hmm.
about I would say a couple years, and then I realized the letters weren't coming back, and I found out a few years ago that he passed away. But I did talk to my half brother, and we just talked back and forth on Skype or in Facebook messaging, and
Mm-hmm.
the language barrier, the time difference, and just the culture difference, everything is just played a major role in like the problems of us communicating.
Yeah.
We could do the typical hi, how are you, how's the weather, how's your day, so the basics, but
Yeah.
really go further into detail, and I couldn't really ever ask him what I really wanted to ask.
Mm-hmm.
So I distanced myself from my entire birth family, and I felt it was just too overwhelming for me. The fact that my mother basically, or my birth mother, I felt that second rejection from her.
Yeah.
I was the one person who really wanted a relationship with me, my grandfather, was no longer to talk to me. And then with my half brother, it was just really hard to do that. So I just kind of, for my own well being, I stopped talking to them. I kind of shut them out. And I think I was telling you before, it was an open wound for me. My adoption is still an open wound for me.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten through, you know, to the acceptance part, the self love part, but it's still, some things are still hard for me to process. So that's why I'd rather distance myself so I can
Yeah.
fully heal emotionally, and I'll reach back out and try again. But
Mm-hmm.
that's be put together in order to do that
Yeah.
in the right emotional stage right now for that.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
Kevin asks, I have a question. If a person is adopted, how did their adopted parents react when you found out you seeked your biological parents? So Kevin, for me,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go searching for my birth mother. So I went to my adoptive mother, and I basically told her, I want to search for my birth mother. I really need to. This is something I need to do. But if it's going to hurt you or make you sad, I'm not going to go through with it because I cared more about her than me at that point. And I still do, but definitely, I put her feelings first. But she automatically said, no, it's okay. You need to do what you need to do. And she supported me for that. And she knew just because I went searching for my birth mother doesn't mean I'm going to automatically go live with her. It's just more of I need to know answers and, find my identity. And there's so many unanswered questions growing up that I needed her to. It was like my part of, I guess, I thought was closure to help
Mm-hmm.
me. So I don't know. How about for you, Katarina?
Um, for me, I don't even remember a single time when I just for the first time said I want to find my birth family. I know I had said it as a kid. I want to go back to Ukraine,
Mm-hmm.
and I had asked them about my parents and um, birth parents, and so and they had always said, well, someday, or gave a timeline like, okay, when you're older, and you can go find them. We'll do it. But it was one of those things of if you don't ask more than once, or else they won't, it'll just throw them off. And I get it. For me, it's just like when I want something, it's like, oh, I want to do it. And so I would search on my own, kind of. Probably shouldn't have, but I tried to do it online and just see like what's out there, who's out there. And, um, but, but they supported me through it. And, but it's definitely, we realize different things when different circumstances hit. I mean, for them, my parents, when we did do the search, it was like we thought it would be a year, so they thought they had a year to process like what this would be. Then in 3 weeks, and it suddenly rocked our world, and my parents, they kind of were like thinking that this would change their role, and it certainly wouldn't. It wasn't. And I reassured them, like, this doesn't change your role in my life. It doesn't change my appreciation for you. It doesn't change who you are to me. And you're always going to be my parents. It's not a replacement. It's its own category. It's, when you start to blend things and things get meshed,
Mm-hmm.
that's when things happen. And so we've all had to, based on our perspective, and it's been helpful that my birth mother Natalia, she's respectful of that. Now Natalia's been one that I've gotten to somehow have deep conversations with, and so she feels more like an aunt. Never will be a mother figure to me. She's my birth mother, but
Mm-hmm.
never a mother figure. But and she respects, my adoptive mom, my mom, who will always be my mom, and she is respectful of that. But of course, for my parents, because it was important to me and a part of me, they felt like they wanted to cherish that themselves, and so they went forward with that. And it was a really selfless thing of them, to do. I can't imagine how hard that is for them. And so just going to be sensitive about that. And I don't talk to them and tell them every single time I talk to them and what's happened all the time. I just, I wait for them to ask about it, and still going through phases of, yeah, healing. And yeah.
That's just an expected thing to have. Like when you're an adoptive parent, that's just expected. You
Mm-hmm.
to know one day that your adopted child is going to have questions,
Yes.
want to find, search for their birth family. And you just have to, that's just an automatic, that comes along with the adoption process,
Mm-hmm.
even though I'm sure it's going to be an emotional time and it's not going to be easy for everyone, but it's going to be expected. So that's something you definitely should prepare yourself for eventually when they get to that certain age where they're started to questioning things.
Mm.
So, I hope we answered that for you, Kevin. Kevin was on before one night and was asking great questions. And again, Kevin, if you have any more, you can always DM me. You can DM Katarina. You can
Yeah.
if you need, and we'll answer the best we can based on our own experiences.
Mm-hmm. So he's wanting to adopt?
I believe he said they were thinking about it. If I'm correct, Kevin, let me know for sure.
Mm.
Jim, my adopted parents were never comfortable when I searched, didn't even want to meet her or him. I'm so sorry, Jim.
Mm.
I can't even imagine how I would feel if my adopted parents told me no.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would feel, and I'm really sorry you had to go through that. My adopted
Mm.
open to it now. Not sure how she would have been if it was 10 to 20 years ago.
Mm.
Again, yeah, that's a shame. But you know what? I'm glad that it's easier for you now. At least, it took, even though it took a long time, at least you're able to feel, I guess, free to make a choice and,
Yeah.
claim your identity or try to at least. And then
Yeah.
adoptive mother's support. Um,
Mm-hmm.
my wife and I have a daughter, and I had a dream the other night that we adopted a baby girl.
Oh.
Okay.
Mm.
Who are you thinking about it? Is that what I remember you said before you and your wife were thinking about it, but had some questions. Bethany, yes, always expect adoptees to want to search. Yes, we are adults now. Yep, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And I think I want to say something too. I had a realization the other day,
Yeah.
like as adoptees, as we're being transparent with each other about our journeys and just the trauma, I think there's something that um, I realize I need to distinguish, and we as adoptees should distinguish, is that, so, there are aspects of adoption that can be traumatic in a sense, like just transitioning into a new family, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, I feel like it's not entirely all on the adoptive parents, how it turns out, because I think we should separate the trauma from our past, from being given up. Like there's already a trauma before we were adopted. Before, there's already that trauma and the loss, whether we're adopted or not, and we were given up, and the breakup of a family is already a trauma in itself. And so carrying that in, it kind of it continues in when adoptive parents adopt, they're adopting the child with their trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's not always just all on the parents for how it turns out, and I don't know if I'm making any sense,
No, you're
but
making
like
everyone plays a role in the adoption process,
everyone.
whether mother, the birth father, if they're involved somehow, birth siblings, the adoptive parents, the adoptees. So we all play a major role in the adoption process, and we all need to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, have empathy for everyone because, it's not easy for the birth parent. Absolutely not. It's not easy for the adoptive parents, when their children, adopted children wants to explore their biological roots and all. And it's not easy for the adoptees, especially growing up, because there's just so much loss. There's so much, so many unanswered questions. There's so much confusion to their identity and where they feel belong or where they feel, if they fit in. So it's just everybody. You have to you're all together. You have to kind of learn from everyone's perspectives. That's what I personally think.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
how old were y'all when you were giving up for adoption? So I was 2 years old.
Oh wow, so you like were with your birth parents, or at least your birth mother, up until the age of 2?
No, I was in an orphanage for 2 years.
Oh, okay. Wow,
Yeah,
still.
an orphanage for 2 years. Katarina said she was, you were 4 or 5?
I was 4 years old when I was adopted, but I was given up at birth in a hospital for 9 months and then in an orphanage until I was adopted.
Right. Exactly. Education on the adoptee trauma is important. I was almost 5. Never easy most of the time. No, it's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. Yeah. And something my parents had said to me that whenever the topic of adoption came up or birth family or anything like that, like even on a TV show or someone would bring it up, make a comment about it, it made them a little nervous inside because they were if I was around, they're like wondered how I felt, but they also I just learned this, but they wouldn't ask me how I felt about it because they didn't know if that was even okay. They were just hesitant about that. They're like, well, maybe if she wants to talk about it, she'll bring it up. And I don't even know, all that I felt at that time, just probably different emotions at different times. But that's also something like, adoptive parents, sometimes they're just afraid to even confront their child about it. Don't even know how.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Um, so Katarina, as we're wrapping up, do you have anything, would you like to add on? Would you like to address? Or if any more questions, please let us know. We have about a few more minutes.
Yes. Man, I've loved our discussion, and I just love like all the feedback from people, and definitely open to responding, or responding to people even after this if we've missed comments. For me, I will say also, I'm from Ukraine, and even though I'm seeing my parents in Russia, it's just because with the war and all, or the conflict happening there, I'm not able to go see them in Ukraine. So that's why I'm going to Russia. And I also found out that most of my background and or most of my heritage is Russian, not Ukrainian. And also there's this, cultural, whole cultural thing. So anyway, that's just another thing I get questions about often. So, but thank you for having me on.
Of course. Well, thank you for joining. So I was actually just on a special live segment from Friday night on I'm Adopted.org with Katarina. So go to her page and check out that video. And I'm so glad you were able to come back on with me. And Bethany said thank you for sharing for your story. Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you for listening. I
Yeah.
can't wait to see yours.
Yes. Does anyone else have any more questions before we say our goodbyes?
I'm glad.
I want to say I'm glad I found your page and this opens my eyes more. I'm not adopted, but I have a feeling down the line I will adopt a baby and give
Aww.
them security I possibly can. That's amazing, Kev.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Resources and support out there for when you do want to adopt, you and your wife. You always have me. There's always this community for questions. And then just, I definitely recommend getting a therapist, to walk you
Mm-hmm.
process and have a therapist for your child as well when you do decide to tell them they're adopted. But I'm sure that's going to be a little while. So, but yeah. Like I said, any more questions, just DM me, DM Katarina. Reach out to the adoptee community. They're also amazing and have their own advice based on and that's what I love, advice based on your own experience. So, um, thank you all for joining. Thank you, Bethany. Bethany. Oh gosh, I keep getting Beth.
It's okay.
She keeps popping up on the bottom, and I keep saying Bethany. Katarina, it's been so nice having you. I love talking to you. So, we will do a one soon.
Awesome. Great. And thank you again, yes, for all you do too. It's encouraging to everyone and myself and other adoptees. I can see the impact it's making, and I can imagine how it's gonna be in the future, the impact it'll make.
Yeah. Well, with all of your help, we're all in this together. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning from
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
welcome, Jim. All right. Well, have a wonderful night. Enjoy your week, and I will be having more lives this week. So you check out my flyers when they come up. All right.
Will do. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, Michelle.
Bye.